So my name is Anne Thibault. I'm the Deputy Director of the Latin American Office of JPAL, the Poverty Action Lab. In the past, I was the Senior Training Manager at JPAL Latin America too. So I've been leading the training efforts towards evaluators and policymakers who wanted to develop skills on impact evaluation with JPAL. So I'm here to present and talk to you about what it takes to be a good evaluator. And by a good evaluator, I mean a good impact evaluator. As you know, JPAL's focus is mainly on impact evaluation. So I would like to talk to you about the skills that we think are needed to be developed as an evaluator, and how can JPAL help you develop those skills. Of course, there are many other organizations that can help you develop those skills, so I will just give our perspective, but of course there are other ways that you could develop those skills. So first, for the ones that are not too familiar with JPAL, JPAL is the Abdul, Latif, Jameel Poverty Action Lab is a network of 143 affiliated professors. They are all researchers, so they're that type of evaluators. They are researchers and mostly in development economics, belonging to almost 50 universities. And our mission is to contribute to poverty reduction, improving the quality of life of people, and improving the quality of life of people by generating evidence and disseminating evidence, rigorous evidence on what works, really, on the public policies and social programs that work. So we have 6 offices in the world, and I represent the office from Latin America. So how we do that? We do that through with 3 departments. The first one is evaluation. So our affiliated researchers run impact evaluation, and what they have in common is that they all use one methodology, which are experiments, randomized controlled trials, RCTs, to answer these questions. So we give them some support to run these evaluations. We also do policy outreach, meaning we try to disseminate the evidence and the results of these evaluations to help policymakers taking better informed decisions. We also try to promote the institutionalization of impact evaluation, of evidence within governments, and also to identify opportunities for scaling up what works. And finally, we do capacity building. So training is an important part of our mission. If you can give me just a second, I have a problem with my battery. Sorry about that. So training is an important part of our mission, and since 2009, JPAL LAC, JPAL Latin America, we have organized about 40 courses on impact evaluation, including online courses. And we have trained about 3,000 professionals on impact evaluation in 11 different countries. So just to give a little bit of context on what it takes to be a good evaluator, first we have observed in the last 10 to 15 years a shift in development economics towards more practical and empirical research and to rigorous impact evaluation methods. So MIT faculty, in particular JPAL's founder, Esther Duflo and Abhijit Banerjee, have been the world leaders in pioneering this shift. And in parallel, there has been rising concerns and questioning on why policies fail. Why are we still with those high levels of poverty that we would like to reduce? So in their books, Poor Economics, Esther Duflo and Abhijit Banerjee express concerns that policies fail because of what they call the 3 I's: ideology, ignorance, and inertia. But how are policy made in the first place? Are they more based on intuition, experience, evidence, political self-interest? So in parallel to this shift in development economics, the broader international development community has given much greater emphasis to evidence-based policy and result-based development, for which understanding rigorous empirical evidence working with microdata plays a central role. So given this shift, existing development practitioners are looking for training opportunity to sort of retool to becoming fluent in modern techniques in order to build their own skills and knowledge to match this new focus in their sector. And so we also have new people entering the field who are increasingly aware of the importance of being familiar with these skills and concepts. And there are now many opportunities for those wanting a career on generating rigorous evidence. And it also means that policymakers in governments, in NGOs, in international agencies, they need much stronger technical skills than in the past to incorporate this growing evidence base into their work. So just to give an example of this shift, you can look at this graph, and this graph represents a plot of countries according to their average score on PISA language test that you might all know. And the question is, which do you think is the variable that is represented on the y-axis? So probably you could think that it's income per capita, for example, or years of education, education of the mother. But the truth of this correlation is that you can see a very strong correlation between average scores in PISA and ice cream consumption per capita. So this is something that you would not expect, but my point here is that you can make a lot of correlations. So probably these two variables are correlated with the same variables, we could think. But basically, just establishing correlations is not helping to understand why certain phenomena occur and what causes them. So there is a shift also to understanding causal relations and not only correlations. And this has been really a very strong focus in impact evaluation. So what is impact? When we're talking about impact, we could define impact as a comparison between the outcome after the program is introduced, with the outcome at the same point in time after the program, had the program not been introduced. So this is the impact. And this situation, this outcome that would have occurred in the absence of the program, it's what we call the counterfactual in the impact evaluation jargon. So how we can measure, how does it help us understanding how to measure impact and how we need to measure impact? So if we look at this graph, for example, can imagine that we have a program that does a campaign to improve immunization rates. So if you look at this trend, you would think, well, probably there is a positive impact. But what is impact actually would be the difference between this blue line and the yellow line. And this is the counterfactual situation, is what would have happened to these people who did participate in this campaign had they not received the campaign. So if you see that difference, you would say, okay, we have a positive impact. But another situation could occur, for example. We could have a situation in which, for example, the program campaign is doing a poor job, and the situation of the people who did not, of these people, had they not participated in the program, could have been better, and we're implementing not a good program. So in that case, we would still observe a positive trend, but still there would be a negative impact. And the same in the other way. We could observe also a negative trend, but it doesn't mean that we have a negative impact, for example, because the counterfactual situation, what would have happened in the absence of the program, could have been worse. So we could still say that we have a positive impact. So this is a very important point when we talk about impact evaluation. The counterfactual represents the state of the world that program participants would have experienced in the absence of the program, had they not participated in the program. And it does not represent the state of the world in which participants receive absolutely no services, but rather the state of the world in which they receive whatever services they would have received had they not participated in the program being evaluated. And this is very important because the problem with that is that measuring the same person in two different states at the same time is impossible. At any point in time, we cannot obviously observe the situation of a person with or without the program. So this is what we call the counterfactual problem. The counterfactual can never really be observed. So what's the solution? Is that we need to construct this counterfactual situation, and this is exactly what we try to do with an impact evaluation. And to do that, we need to select a group of people who did not participate in the program and who are the same in all dimensions, in all variables, than the group of people who actually participated in the program. So this is a key decision for an evaluator, is how you're going to select this comparison group and how you are going to construct the counterfactual. So, and the most unbiased way to mimic this counterfactual is using random assignment of the program to create a comparison group, which would be exactly the same as the group of people who receive the program. So why do I tell you that? Is that one important thing is that the premise is that if you want to be a good evaluator, a good impact evaluator, you need to be able to construct and to design evaluations that will construct a valid counterfactual, a valid situation, a valid group of people to compare the participants with. So this is the starting point. And then for the rest, it will depend mostly on many things. It will depend on what the purpose of the evaluation, what is the evaluation for, whether the evaluation will be done internal or externally, and who is the audience for this evaluation. So in the next minutes, I will try to give you a quick overview of what are the skills that are needed in each of these situations, and how can JPAL help you develop those skills. Okay, so one way, as I mentioned, is we could imagine the purpose of the evaluation, why we want to evaluate, would be all the situation could find themselves in between these lines. Of course, it's a bit simplistic way to explain it, and I know that there are many more purposes for an evaluation, an impact evaluation, but you could see evaluation that would have a purpose of accountability, improve accountability, or improve learning, or and all the in between. On the other axis, we would have, it will depend on whether the evaluation will be run internally or externally and independently, okay? So with this framework, we can ask ourselves, what is the audience for this evaluation? So first, in the upper left quadrant here, we have groups that are interested in maybe in transparency or on efficiency of public or program spending. So typically we would have groups, we have civil society, donors, we would have also alternative or competing programs for the same resources. So, and typically there will be external because it gives them more credibility and will be free from bias. So then you would have, if you look at the legislator, just give me a second. So in the case of the legislator, you could, in that case, or if the evaluation is for high-level decision makers inside governments, the results of the evaluation will be useful for making a decision, for making a final judgment regarding the contribution of the program to the resolution of the problem, and making decisions regarding the allocation of resources, continuity of the program, or legal actions. So it would be probably a mix of internal and external evaluation, typically a government agency that coordinates the effort, the evaluation effort, but that is independent from the implementing agency or a specific ministry. So could be a Ministry of Planning, Ministry of Social Development, Budget Office would be this entity. So then, if we move to the right side towards learning, we would have evaluation that are more relevant for the program leadership, for example, typically led by non-researcher internal evaluators. So there, the purpose of the evaluation is more for internal learning on how to improve the program. We want to generate information focused on the design or the redesign of the program in order to improve its performance and results. So if the audience is internal, probably external evaluators could lack of a deep understanding of the mechanisms of the program and could lack also credibility. And finally, in this upper right quadrant, we have evaluation that have a purpose, more a purpose of external learning to answer questions of general relevance in public policy. So there, the evaluation seeks to generate public goods by contributing to knowledge in social and economic sciences. It could be knowledge on mechanisms of the intervention. Also, if we have heterogeneous effects, and it serves also as a basis for innovations and new approaches to public policy. And with the idea that we want to try to replicate or scale up effective programs. So here, the audience is more academia. Is more these evaluations are typically led by researchers, and they're interested in publishing their results in a scientific review. So it will be generally external, but when the incentive is to find really the truth and opening the black box, answering more why questions on whether a program works or not, the researcher will need to be close to the program implementers, and then it can be a mix of external evaluation, but with internal support from the implementing partners. So now we can think of what are the skills that are needed for each one of these situations. What are the skills, and what has been trying to do JPAL to help development practitioners to develop those skills. Okay, so in the case of this external evaluations that are more focused on have a purpose on accountability, what skill do you need? So probably you will be, in that case, more a consultant on monitoring and evaluation. So, and before even thinking about impact evaluation skills, you will need to probably conduct process evaluation to find out if the program was carried out and planned. So you will have to wonder if the basic tasks of the program are being completed, is the intervention reaching the target population, is the intervention being completed well or efficiently, and to the beneficiary's satisfaction. So this is something very important, because probably most of the time you won't be able not even to run an impact evaluation. And also, when you do this evaluation, they will probably be run ex post, which is not ideal when you're trying to identify a counterfactual situation, a good control group. So there, it will be very important for you to understand very well what are impact evaluation methods, and also understand the assumptions that are associated to each method. And probably some recommendation of JPAL in that case would be, if you are not sure that you will get an unbiased result for your impact evaluation, probably you should focus on descriptive evidence that it will be more useful to make decisions. And also you will need to communicate the results in a way that is understandable for your audience. So what have JPAL, what can JPAL do for you to help? So JPAL has several programs, and one of them is a co-branded diploma in impact evaluation that JPAL implements at this host university at Pontificia Universidad Católica. It's a year-long program of 120 hours, and then we see in very much detail. There are 3 courses. We see the detail on what is the rigorous evidence that already exists, what we already know in different fields, in different sectors, based on the rigorous evidence that have already been generated, produced. We have a course, a very detailed course on impact evaluation methods, and finally, a course on implementation of impact evaluations, how you run that in practice. So now we're trying to see how we can replicate this program in other universities. We are in conversation in Mexico, in Brazil, to repeat this program and make it available for local evaluators. So then if we look at the second quadrant, so remember we were talking about the evaluation that could be more focused on the decision makers and legislator. So you will need also process evaluation skills as well. But something to have in mind is that maybe what you need there with this kind of skills that you would need are more focused on generating new evidence, on producing impact evaluation. Maybe you should focus on what is using the existing evidence. Because there was a dramatic rise in the number of rigorous impact evaluation of program policy in the last 20 years, but generating new ones are expensive, and it's impossible to evaluate the impact of all the programs, and still we need to inform decisions, and the evaluation community needs to give some advice on what kind of decision you can do. So here probably what you will need to be to assess the quality of existing empirical evidence, and also understand how evidence from one context can be generalized to your local context, and how you could use this existing knowledge to better design interventions. So in that case, as we say, one recommendation would be maybe not only look at how to generate evidence and how to generate rigorous impact evaluations, but also develop skills to use evidence and to generalize policy lessons. So here there are several ways in which JPAL could help. First, well, JPAL works with sectors, so we have sector chairs who review and synthesize key findings and policy lessons from randomized evaluation. So if you go to JPAL's website, you will have a bank of policy publications, and with a broader list of key policy insights on a series of different sectors. So I suggest you might want to have a look on this database of evidence, existing evidence. Another way also is that we have developed training strategies and workshops to train evaluators and policymakers to better use global evidence to inform local policy decisions. And what is it about? So it's a methodology that combines theory and descriptive evidence and results of rigorous impact evaluations to answer generalizability questions. And how we do that, so here is an example, for example, for our immunization campaign program. We have to ask ourselves if the evidence from RCTs from impact evaluation experiments can replicate to new contexts. So a big question need to break it down into several questions. For example, what is the theory of change behind the intervention? Do the local conditions hold for the theory to apply? How strong is the evidence for the general behavioral changes? And what is the evidence that the implementation process can be carried out well? So this is an interesting methodology if you think that mostly your program can be evaluated with a rigorous method, but still you want to make decisions based on the existing evidence. So we can give you also more information about that kind of training. Okay, so in the third, if we move to the right, we're talking about this evaluation that are implemented internally by the program managers to improve their programs. So here there are also different skills that you might want to develop, so most of them similar to the other ones, process evaluations, differentiate between a good and a bad evaluation design. In many cases, when this evaluation won't necessarily be implemented by the internal evaluators, but it will be designed by them or it will be commissioned, and then some external entity will do the data collection. So this is why it's really important for you to have the skills to analyze different proposals for a rigorous impact evaluation and to understand the assumptions associated to each method, because again, the randomized trials might not be the possible option in those cases. But our recommendation would be here, if you really want to learn about how to implement an experiment, you should try to do that in practice. You should learn in practice, learn by doing, partnering with researchers. And it's actually a strategy that has worked pretty well in the region with a type of training courses that we call incubator courses or impact evaluation clinics. So it's a type of course where we work together with program implementers. So JPAL affiliates work with program implementers to help them develop these practical and applied skills to design, commission, and implement rigorous impact evaluations. And then after the training course, so we work really hand in hand with them to develop the design for their impact evaluation. And then we have a technical assistance period where we incubate this evaluations project with the support of JPAL affiliates. So far, since 2013, when we have started with this model, JPAL LAC has implemented 9 of these incubation courses, and we have incubated around 40 programs, 40 projects. And finally, the last type of skill that you might need if you are doing this evaluation that are meant to be publishable in scientific review and that are research. There obviously, so you need to develop, in that case, the researcher's language, the economist's language. So most of them will already come with a degree or the PhD to develop this language. But there will need some rigorous quantitative evaluation methods skills. They will need to design and implement these evaluations, and also partner with implementing organizations. Because these kinds of evaluations are very difficult to implement if you don't have a permanent dialogue with the implementing partners, because we're trying to answer to questions that have been defined, that were defined both by policymakers and by the researchers. So here, what can we do for you? We offer advanced courses that there are workshops that introduce researchers who are already familiar with economics or econometrics, and we provide an introduction to classical and recent methodology developments in the analysis and interpretation of experimental and quasi-experimental designs in social science. So our next course is actually next week in Mexico at the ITAM University, where we will run one of these courses. And another very important strategy, as it has been mentioned in a previous presentation, is the importance of online platform and digital training. So here, JPAL has made a very strong effort through its host university in the US, MIT, and the edX platform to offer a wide range of training online courses of MOOCs which are advanced and are run by top MIT professors, and they're all available for any student around the world. So it's a very good tool if you need to develop these skills during your career, and most of them are free or at a very low cost. And I will conclude with that, just to tell you to stay tuned, because this next Monday, JPAL will make an important announcement to launch a new training program focused on young professionals who want to develop these new skills. So, and I hope that many of you will apply to this very innovative programs. I can't say too much right now because the official announcement will be on Monday, but I recommend you to connect on JPAL's website to hear more about this exciting new training program. That's it, and thank you very much. I don't know if we have time for questions. If not, I'm available to answer your question by email.